on the side there. All right, today in the county we experienced 9 towns receiving calls of bomb threats. In those 9 towns, there was a total of 26 schools that we had to go to. Hackensack had 7 schools. Garfield had 12. I'll name all the other towns in case you're not aware. We had Leonia, 1 school. Englewood, 1. Hackensack, 7. Bergenfield, 1. Teaneck, 1. Fairlawn, 1. Tenafly, 1. Garfield, 12. And New Milford, 1. We immediately sent our bomb dogs, which we have 6 of. We relied, and I'd like to thank the Jersey City Police Department for sending 2 of their bomb canines, and then Jersey State Police who sent 3 of theirs, so that we had 9 and at least had a bomb dog in every town, so that each town had a dog there. And they did go, the ones with multiple schools did go from school to school to school. We were receiving periodically about the schools that had been cleared. Apparently this is coming through recycled computer-generated numbers. All seem to be coming from Bakersfield, California. I have to add at this time, it's my hope that federal legislators will look at this thing, and it's time to start stopping the protection of some of these companies where they hide the identity of people that are doing these types of calls. It's my understanding that yesterday there were quite a few even from outside of the New Jersey area. There were also 2 today out of Bergen County. Clifton and Sayreville had similar type of calls. The first call that we received was about 8:39 this morning, and by 1 p.m. we had all schools checked and were cleared. Some schools went into lockdown. Some schools did evacuate. It's protocol of each of them. At this time, before I take any questions, I'd like to have Prosecutor Graywall say a couple of comments.
Thank you, Sheriff. I just want to sort of add to what Sheriff Saudino just said. I think what was demonstrated this morning was the extraordinary coordination of local law enforcement in the 9 municipalities that were affected, the Sheriff's Office and State Police, who also lent canine units, as well as Jersey City. I think very swiftly they were able to respond to all of the scenes and clear those schools. We were getting periodic updates, as the Sheriff mentioned, to ensure the safety of the students. This is a serious offense. Calling in bomb hoaxes and things of this nature. Students can be affected. First responders can be affected in responding to these types of locations on an emergent basis. Our office, our computer crimes unit, is one of the best in the state, if not the country. And the problem with any sort of crime, in particular a digital or online crime, is that there are digital fingerprints. And we will follow up on each and every lead. The investigation is ongoing at this time, but really the point of this afternoon's press conference is to really recognize the first responders, the Sheriff's Office, and others who coordinated in a timely fashion to ensure the safety of students in the county. Thank you.
What people have to realize, several years back, a friend of mine, a friend of Under Sheriff Smith who worked for Paramus, Officer Vinnie Brock, was killed responding to a 911 call, a fake 911 call. He was killed responding. What this does, our officers are wanting to get to the scene as soon as possible to protect life and property, and it puts them at risk. It puts other motorists at risk. The cost factor, I won't even go into that, but there's a significant cost factor. It also depletes our resources should there be something that really should be necessary to respond to. So I know when we catch, I'm not saying if, I know when we catch people doing this, an example is going to be made, and I know the prosecutor's office will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. I think I'm free in saying that, Mr. Prosecutor.
Absolutely, Sheriff.
So that's about all I have. Any questions right now? Yes.
Did you know that there were many other states that had the same thing, Sheriff? There was Maryland, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts.
Yes, we just found out about that later on. I don't have specifics of those places, of course, but yes, this is something that happened across the country.
Sheriff, this same thing happened in November of 2014. We had 5 or 6 school districts here in Bergen County,
Yes.
And a whole bunch up in Massachusetts as well.
Yes.
We've had that repeated again. Does it appear to you that this may be the same individual?
You know what, I couldn't say at this point. However, I want to reiterate, that I think it's time that the legislators looked at some legislation to maybe open up records more so than what we are, certain things we have to subpoena, and there are certain things that we can't even get through subpoena. Sometimes the phone companies, it's difficult to get information. I really couldn't honestly say if it's anything that's connected.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Were all of the threats made in the form of messages? I know some schools receive voice messages. Were some actually given to a person who answered the phone? And also, is this officially considered swatting?
Yeah, you could, although we didn't send SWAT units in, number one, we sent bomb dogs, bomb technicians. It's my understanding that the calls were made last night, and school systems came in this morning and retrieved the voice messages. Was Leonia different than that, Chief?
Yes, our call came in approximately 8:35 this morning. It was answered by one of the representatives at our high school. It was an automated message that was repeated 3 times.
The rest were called last night.
So it sounded more like a robocall rather than a live voice?
You know what, I can't honestly say what the, I haven't heard myself any of the calls at this time, but.
There were mass shooting threats too, right? It wasn't just bomb threats?
Yeah, there was, I think, one or two of the calls where when police respond, there's going to be a mass shooting of law enforcement. Yes.
And when you say automated, so is it a pre-recorded voice or was it a robotic voice saying the message?
You know, again, not hearing any of the messages, Chief Martino, would you know if it sounded like a computer-generated voice or a human voice?
It was a robotic type voice.
Robotic, all right, so it sounds computer-generated, yeah.
Been
Yeah.
in touch with other counties? I know Passaic.
Well, like I said, Clifton and Sayreville also had similar situations today.
Prosecutor, have you had an opportunity to reach out to any other jurisdictions beyond New Jersey? Or your office have any opportunity to reach out to any other jurisdictions?
So I have not in relation to this particular event. I should also mention that the FBI offered assistance as well. And so I want to thank them for their assistance in the investigation on our side. It is a multi-jurisdictional problem, and I have some experience dealing with these sort of crimes prior to coming over to the office from the federal level. So it's not targeted typically to one jurisdiction. It's sort of multiple people are affected. We had incidents in North Jersey last year, South Jersey, Massachusetts. There were some prosecutions that were born out of that on the federal level. And so when I said earlier these crimes leave a digital fingerprint, it's just a matter of chasing that to its logical conclusion. And in prior cases it has been done, and we have a terrific computer crimes unit, and we are going to chase down the leads that we've developed to date.
Mr. Prosecutor, what would be needed on the federal level? The sheriff was mentioning this, to go ahead and make it easier to find the people who actually do this. If you don't mind just sliding towards that.
So, as far as proposed legislation, federal, state, I'm just, I'll stay out of that. That's not my lane. We're using the tools that we have at the state level to chase down whatever leads we have been able to develop, and I'm not going to sort of comment on the ins and outs of the investigation because the investigation is very much active and ongoing.
There was recently legislation for increasing penalties against swatting. I'm not sure, did that pass? Are there stiffer penalties or not?
So, I don't, are you talking about at the state level or the federal level?
State level.
So I don't have information on that.
I haven't heard of any recent increases in penalties for swatting calls.
What would be the charges and potential penalties in a case like this?
There's various
Perhaps prosecutor,
crimes that they can
what charges
be
you would
charged
bring in?
with.
So I think we're still trying to fit the facts that we've developed and the evidence that we have to potential charges. It's a little bit too early to say.
This is still, though, a Bergen County prosecutor investigation at this point, even though you said, are you actually using the assistance of the FBI?
They have offered their assistance, and it is very much a Bergen County prosecution.
Will there be strong presence at the schools throughout the week?
I'm sure in each of the towns, I don't want to speak on behalf of any law enforcement here, I'm sure there'll be more frequent patrols around those areas. Historically, it shows that this usually is a one-time thing for those areas and it quiets down, but we as law enforcement never take anything as being usual. And again, I'm sure patrols will be enhanced in all those towns. I know our patrols will be alerted to make sure that they frequent the schools, these 26 schools within the county.
So it's 26 schools, how many of them are high schools?
9.
9 high schools, and then Clifton's not included in that?
No, Clifton's in Passaic County.
Hey, Sheriff, some school districts made the decision to evacuate their students. Most school districts did not make that decision, but
Right.
rather to shelter in place.
Right.
What would you recommend? Why do we have this disparity between districts?
You know, there is a model lockdown policy within the county. Years ago, Prosecutor Malinelli, then prosecutor, had all law enforcement trained alike on active shooter training. Because if a school, like St. Emerson, where I was chief, should have an active shooter, and Westwood and Oradell are backing us up, they want to make sure everyone is trained similarly so that we're all acting on the same way. As far as policies on the school, that's really their call on how they want to handle it. You know, if you take normally if there's a threat to a specific school in a town, they'll move the students maybe to another school that's nearby. But what do you do in Garfield when all 12 schools are hit? Where do you put all those students? You know, it could be a logistic nightmare that, you know what, it may be the best thing just to keep them locked down where they are.
But the active shooter thing in the
Well-
county several years ago basically said keep the kids inside. So what happened here? Why did some of the districts choose to?
Again, it's their call. You know, each school district has their own procedures. Law enforcement can suggest, but at the end of the day, it's really their call on how they want to handle this.
Can we just ask somebody from Garfield, I mean, how'd you guys handle the situation with all of the schools being targeted, if you don't mind just giving us a?
We deployed an officer.
Don't run from us.
We deployed an officer to each school, at least one, if not multiple. We worked in conjunction with the school security and also to lock down the schools at that point and secure them until we had a chance to get the bomb detection dogs there.
So how hard is that? I mean, you gotta go through all 12 schools.
It's a lot of resources, yes. So
Any idea what the cost would be?
I don't have any idea what the cost, no.
Sheriff, you have no feel for what the cost of all this is?
You know, at the end of the day, we sent even our bomb dogs that were off duty, they were called in, sent out, you know, that's all overtime. I believe all the other resources that we sent as far as other bodies, sheriff's officers, I believe those were all on-duty personnel. But there always is an expense to something like this.
Would you say it was probably under $100,000?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But more than 10,000?
No, with us, we're
Because
maybe.
so many people were on duty?
Yes, you know, I think we had 2 bomb dogs on duty already, so we had to call in 4 more. So it would be overtime for those officers for the times that they were at the schools.
Did you know early on that this was sort of a mass threat to all of these districts? Because to me, to keep kids inside a school when there's a bomb threat doesn't seem rational, but.
They were coming in periodically to us, requests from us to send our bomb dogs. It wasn't like one call at one time.
But I'm saying, did you know early on that this was probably just not a credible threat, or did you not?
Listen, we take everything like it's a credible threat. We have no choice but to act. Every situation could be real.
What's the maximum penalty of
I mean, it would depend on the charges, so I think, like I said earlier, we're still trying to develop the evidence, and then, you know, then we'd figure out which charges to bring and identify, you know, who the perpetrators are.
And just wondering, you know, because there was the cases in November, I know there have been a lot of cases over the past year, not just then. Prosecutors, can you recall a case of one of these swatting incidents at a school where there actually has been an arrest made?
My recollection is that there have been federal arrests made, I believe last year out of Massachusetts or maybe Connecticut, somewhere in the Northeast. So I don't recall what the penalties were in that particular case.
And Sheriff, just to clarify, all of the calls came from Bakersfield, California, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, that's where
It's routed. It's routed. They're not sent from, you know, it's routed to make it look like it's coming from Bakersfield.
But it could be local.
Yes, could be.
How long before you could get any kind of records to see?
I'm sure the prosecutor, they're handling this investigation.
We're in the process of the investigation, so I really don't feel comfortable talking about what we're getting, what we're looking at this point.
Do you have the specifics on which schools did dismiss? Which districts did dismiss?
I don't have a breakdown of that.
I don't think
You know,
anybody dismissed. I
it's,
think there was an evacuation.
Nobody dismissed?
No,
For the day? Okay.
no. It was early in the day.
Anybody?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.